Alright, my wife got fiber goats, and we just sheared our first one today. We got a few more to shear, and my wife didn't want to use our milking stand to shear all the goats, so I'm going to build another stand. So back to the next reclaimed wood project. I'm going to start off with a pallet. I got some 2x6s for the legs. I do have a couple of new 2x4s for the beams up on the top. Essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the width of this pallet. I'm going to cut everything down here, use the whole length of it. So that'll be the actual stand that they stand on as we're trimming them. I'll use the 2x6s for the legs, and then I'll build something up here in the front where it comes to kind of hold their neck in. I'm a visual person, so I figured I'd kind of do like a sketch roughly of what I'm going to be planning on here. This is just kind of a rough sketch. It's got 25 inches. That's how width of the pallet, 46 inches long essentially. I'm building this to the height of my wife, so if she's the one doing the shearing, she said 15 inches seems like it would be the best for her to be able to stand there and not be bent over too long as far as looking at them when she's shearing them. So we're going to go 15 inches tall to the walkway. And then I went out there and measured our goat, and my tallest goat is 36 inches, about midway through his head. So I'm going to go ahead and go 3 feet up to keep their head trapped in there. This is kind of what I'm planning on building as far as how I want to have where we can, hold their heads in here when we're trimming. I got a piece of conduit. So up on top here, this is going to continue along, and I'm going to drill every inch wider. So as the goat goes there, we have 4 inches, 5, 6, and 7 inches all the way out. So you can just drop that piece of conduit all the way down through there. Give a little bit of wiggle room so they can kind of move their head back and forth, and then I'll put an eye bolt here to put their lead to, so they're not going to be able to back out and get out of there. As I do this, it'll have a little better pictures and stuff as I go, but that's kind of where we're going to get started, and I'm going to get this thing broke down, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so I got the main base part built here. This will be the front stand. Now it's pretty wide right now because what I'm going to end up doing is, this is where we're going to be able to drop the rest. We can figure our buck, his head is going to be about here when he's standing in here, so we want to make enough room he's not going to feel uncomfortable. So what I'll end up doing here just to beef it up a little bit is the extra bit that I have here from cutting down these 2x4x8s. I'm going to put this back here, screw it through the pallet, put a couple in here, and then I'm going to run my 2x6 along the top. And then this is where I'm going to run down and put the conduit in there. We'll see how that's going to work. So it's nice and round, has a little bit of flex, so it won't hurt the goats when we're in here shearing them. So that'll what it's going to be next, is I'm going to beef this up, and then I'll build the spot where it drops through. Alright, so now I got the main spot where I'm going to put their heads through. So what I'm going to do is just to make sure that we have a little extra support on this, I got a couple more of these scrap 2x6s here. So I'll end up putting these as a corner brace. I'll cut the angle, tuck these underneath here so that it keeps this nice and rigid, keeps this from moving as the goats could push back and forth. But then what essentially I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to take a drill bit, and I got some extra conduit over there, and I'm going to run the pieces of conduit here, and I'm going to drill holes at different spaces, I guess, different gaps all the way across. So I'll start off pretty narrow. It's like, say, 4 inches in case we have some younger, smaller goats. And I'm going to go 5 inches, 6 inches. I figure 6 inches is probably going to be about the widest goat's head that we're going to have to worry about. But I figured if I kind of stagger them back and forth as they go wider, we can just take the conduit and drop it right in. And then I can get I'll put another 2x across here with an eye bolt, so we can put their lead rope and just hook it right here so they can pull their head. They can't pull their head back, and the conduit will kind of hold them in place. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut these, figure out my angles, get this all cut, and go from there. GoPro stop video. Alright, so I got the upper part braced. Now we're going to continue on here on the bottom of this. To stick along with the reusing and as much wood as possible, the other part of the pallet that we cut down earlier, we're going to take those slats and cut those ones down, and then we're actually going to put those inside here, and then we'll run screws from the top. That way we're wasting the least amount of wood possible from this pallet. Everything will be reused. There'll just be this little tiny gap in between there. Not going to be a big deal for the goats. Kind of give little channels to sweep out, make everything easy to clean. So that's going to be the next step, is getting all these cut, get all this filled in, and then we'll cut the holes for the conduit. Alright, so just got all those underslats installed, so you can see all the gaps all filled in. So now everything's all nice and tight, made a lot more solid. So now I'm going to come through, and I pre-marked where dead center is on this board and that one. So now I'm going to go through and drill my holes for my conduit, and I'll start about 4 inches, and then I'll go out to 5, and I'll move them this way and then out, so that way they're back and forth. Make sure I'm not going too close to each other, kind of make sure it stays nice and solid as I drill through. So that way as the goat puts their head through, you just take the conduit and drop it, another conduit on the other side of their neck and drop it, and then put the eye bolt for the lead. So that'll be the next one. We'll get these all holes drilled and go from there. Okay, got it all finished here. So here's the new shearing stand. So all the braces are in. You can see how the floor all came together. There's just a little tiny gap in between there, not a big deal for the goat with their hooves. Easy to clean. Now here's the conduit that I put in here. I know it was probably kind of hard to understand what I was trying to say, but I drilled different holes. I only went with just 4 holes. I didn't figure that you're going to need much more than that. If it is, not a big deal just to add them. So you can just take one piece of conduit out and slide the goat right in, and you can move these wherever you need it to, just enough to get it around their neck to keep them from moving around too much. These will have a little give to them. You know, they're not super tight, and obviously they'll roll and spin, and we have just a basic carabiner here to lock the goats in place when we have them on their halter. So that's pretty much it. New goat shearing stand, all out of reclaimed wood. I even use old screws from other projects. The only thing I had that is new is 2 pieces of 2x4x8 that I just had lying around from other projects. I reused those. Everything else is all scrap wood that was just lying around.